The U.S. military fight China provocative in South China Sea amid pandemic. Chinese propagandists have had a field day with a violent incident in the South China Sea, which for once didn't involve its own aggression. On April 20th, an intruding Vietnamese fishing boat capsized and sank with the loss of 4 lives after repeatedly trying to ram an Indonesian patrol craft. Two other Vietnamese vessels and their crews were detained in the encounter west of the Natuna Islands. The incident had not been made public for a week as the two Southeast Asian neighbors sought to smooth the situation through diplomatic channels. Both appear aware that China has sought to exacerbate the episode through social media, part of its divide-and-conquer strategy aimed at the force association of Southeast Asian nations members bordering on the contested South China Sea. The incident comes at a time of rising regional tensions, with US Secretary of State Michael Pompeo accusing China of exploiting the world's preoccupation with the COVID-19 pandemic by carrying out provocations in the maritime area. His April 23 statement referred to China flying aircraft close to Taiwan and deploying a battle group led by the carrier Liaoning to the area, at a time when the 7th Fleet's only 2 Pacific-based flat tops. The USS Theodore Roosevelt and the USS Ronald Reagan are laid up in Guam in Japan by the spread of COVID-19. More than 800 of the USS Theodore Roosevelt's 5,600 crewmen have been infected, and sources familiar with its current status say it may take another month before the nuclear-powered carrier is ready to put back to sea after being sanitized and The U.S. was active as well by sending a task force through the sea's disputed Spratly Islands and dispatching 2 B-1B Lancer bombers from Ellsworth Air Base in South Dakota on a 32-hour round trip over the South China Sea, a demonstration of its new dynamic force employment model in pinpointing the location of the Vietnam incident. The Peking University Institute of Ocean Research, which lists a general and other military officers on its board, engaged in some fanciful redrawing of the region's boundaries. In what one naval analyst called amateur hour, a map posted online by the Institute's South China Sea Strategic Situation Probing Initiative shows China's economic exclusion zone 150 nautical miles further south than it should be. The map essentially mirrors the so-called 9-dash line, the vaguely defined demarcation line China uses in its unilateral claim to sovereignty over a large swath of the South China Sea, including the hotly disputed Paracel and Spratly Islands. The redrawn boundary brushes Jemaja, the westernmost island of Indonesia's Natuna archipelago, tracks northeast of the small island of Sea, and then passes south close to the eastern coast of Natuna, the group's largest landmass. Maritime experts believe Beijing is trying to press Southeast Asian countries into giving up their lawful rights under the UN Law of the Sea Convention, of which it is a signatory, and share their 200 nautical miles with China. China's antics aside, it is not clear why Vietnam has been antagonizing both Indonesia and Malaysia by failing to stop its unruly fishing fleet from regularly intruding into their waters. More than half of the 500 foreign fishing boats Indonesia seized between 2014 and 2019 were Vietnamese, and on any given day, As many as 180 Vietnamese craft are currently fishing on or near Indonesia's maritime boundary. Although simple fish poaching lies at the heart of the current situation, the two countries do have undefined border issues, with President Joko Widodo and Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Tan Dung agreeing in 2016 to accelerate efforts to find a solution. China may be having a field day with this, but why are the Vietnamese acting so aggressively? Asks one regional commentator, noting that the South China Sea Code of Conduct discussions have gone nowhere in the past 3 months. That's largely because the architecture of Association of Southeast Asian Nations diplomacy has fallen apart in recent months. There is a lack of information, a lack of candor, he says. They are seeing or finding regional consultations difficult. They don't resolve anything, but they do keep tensions at a manageable level. The latest incident came a year to the week since the last reported clash, filmed by the Indonesians, in which a Vietnamese fisheries protection vessel ran an Indonesian Navy patrol craft as it sought to intercept an intruding fishing boat. Indonesian crewmen can be heard shouting expletives and as one sailor uses a long pole to strike. At the bridge of the smaller ship, another stands ready with an assault rifle. About a dozen Vietnamese fishermen were eventually detained. The Indonesian Foreign Ministry summoned Vietnam's ambassador in protest, saying the incident had endangered the lives of crewmen on both sides and was not in accordance with the ASEAN spirit. This time, the Indonesians claim a Vietnamese trawler acted like a kamikaze, trying 3 times to ram the 530-ton Orca 03, one of 3 home-built Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries patrol craft launched in 2014 to ramp up protection of the country's rich maritime resources.